This is my first morning check of the horses and also to feed them. First we'll do a visual check on the horses at the lower barn. I can see that they're both standing there watching the house. They're in their pastures. Everybody looks fine, gates are closed, and no sign of any problems. Now we'll go check on the horses in the show barn. This is the first visual check of the horses in the show barn. First thing I'll notice is that Babe is watching the house as usual. Her ears are up. She's very attentive and looking forward to breakfast. Shiza is also watching me and looking attentive and ears up. Everything looks good. The barn aisle way is normal. Everything's hanging on their stalls. Before feeding them, I'll take a look in the stalls and check each horse, make sure everyone is fine and no one needs any medical care. Babe looks good. She's a little stocked up in her hind legs, but she tends to do that during the night. She's an older mare and has some arthritis problems. Her eyes are bright, clean, and clear. She's not showing any signs of colic or any types of distress. I don't see any abrasions on her body that may have occurred during the night. Now I'll check her water buckets. She has about 3/4 of water, a little less on the other bucket's pretty empty, which is normal water consumption for her during the night. Her stall condition is normal. She tends to stall walk and piles all the shavings to the back of the stall, and she also usually puts most of her manure against the back wall, so that looks normal. Her hay amount, she has a little bit of hay left over from last night's feeding, and that's what I prefer. I don't like seeing horses standing in their stalls with nothing to eat, so I like to have them have a little bit of hay left over in the morning and still be munching on it. As you can tell, she's in pretty good flesh. Now we'll move over to Shiza and check her. Normally this takes only a few minutes to do, but because I'm explaining the steps, it's taking a little longer. Usually I can just kind of look at each horse pretty quick and then go on to feeding them. Shiza is in the same condition. She is bright, attentive, upset with the dog standing outside of her stall. Back. She looks good. No signs of any abrasions during the night. No signs of any colic. Her stall is in its normal condition. Manure basically along the right side wall on Babe's side. Her water, she has about a little more than half a bucket in one. The other bucket's pretty much empty. She also has hay left over from last night, not as much as Babe does. At this point, I'll go ahead and give these horses their morning grain. If they were both out of hay and acting like they were really hungry, I would give them a little hay first and then feed them their grain in about 45 minutes or so. I prefer not to feed horses grain on an empty stomach. As I approach the horses at the lower barn, I notice that they're both looking at me, their ears are up, and they're showing no signs of stress. Before I give them their grain, I'll do a closer visual check and make sure no one needs any immediate medical care and everyone looks good. I also check their shoes and make sure everyone has their shoes on. They only have front shoes on. They have no rear shoes on, and everything looks good. I'll also check and make sure on their hay situation, and there's hay left over from last night, so they had plenty to eat. I'll now go check their water